I found the 21-inch Sportster wheel in decent shape. Just needs to be cleaned up a little bit. And we're running double row bearings. I have a bearing that's actually seated down in there, and then I put an extra bearing on the outside, and we're running 2 bearings on each side of the wheel. I'm doing that because of the 25mm axle. Let me grab it. This 25mm axle has 2 sections for bearing service, and then the center is cut out, unfortunately. So what I'm doing is the inner 2 bearings are only catching about that much of the bearing surface, and the outer 2 bearings are going to catch the rest of it. So that's why we're running 4 bearings in this wheel. This wheel, of course, was not set up to for this front end. This front end is a 2022 street bob front end, and it requires a wheel that has like a 5.5-inch hub, which a wide glide's about 6.5. These are just average measurements, and the Sportster wheel is about 4.5. So we're gonna have to run 4.5, and we will probably have to space the caliper over about 1/4 of an inch, maybe even 1/2 inch. Now, I don't really like the idea of doing that, so we may be able to find a rotor spacer, or I may have to turn one down on the lathe. And if that's the case, then we'll pull this back off. But for now, I'll be able to get the wheel in the front end and make sure the axle and all that stuff's gonna work. And I'll torque these in a minute, 35 foot-pounds of torque. I usually go about 40 on these. Anywhere between 35 and 40 is good on these. I think the recommended torque spec on these is like 35. To me, 35 just doesn't feel like enough. I usually put an extra 5 pounds on them and bring them up to 40. Okay, let me get a torque wrench. That looks to be 35 pounds right there. I don't want this to pop out of that. Okay, so we're going to torque this thing down. Like I said, 35 pounds on this. You want to do these in a cross pattern. And then I'll go back in and check them. And this will be ready to go on Shovelhead ASAP. Y'all don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Dave with Iron Blackbird Cycles.